one of the cool things about working at Fike is that we make really niche products, number one. That's very cool that we can kind of have our little spot, but also that our products can end up saving lives. They can end up saving equipment. They can end up doing a lot of things that end up saving somebody something. So what is Fike's quality role in assuring that someone is going to go home that night?
Right. So that's a really good question. It's a really large question.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll try to answer it at a high level.
Love that.
I would say
A responsibility of quality would be identifying risks, whether that's product risk, process risks, supply chain risks, so on. And working with a team, it's not just quality, right? It could be engineering, manufacturing, operations, working with a team of people to identify those risks and put in corrective measures to either eliminate the risks or reduce those risks to becoming a reality. So I would say we take a leading role into doing those type of things.
If you're going to perform all of your quality processes on an HRD, a high rate discharge container, what does that look like?
So if we start at the lowest level detail, we have raw material coming in, right? So we're working with purchasing to qualify suppliers, making sure that our requirements are flowing down on the purchase orders, that the vendors can meet those, right? So at the very early stages, that's where we're at. Then when those products come in, we're verifying that they delivered on their promises of the raw materials themselves, right? And then once it goes from there, whether it's a machining of a flange that gets welded onto an HRD, so we work with the machine shop where we have a statistical sampling plan for certain inspection levels we do in the machine shop, and sometimes those products go into inspection for a final inspection where we're doing additional dimensional inspections. And then, of course, we have, we're kind of skipping a little bit of the how it's made, but just in general, like once it goes to the weld shop and the components get welded together, then we have a quality weld inspector in the weld shop as well that's doing visual weld inspections, looking for porosity, cracks in welds, things like that.
Do you ever feel like the bad guy?
Well, it's very easy to be looked at as the bad guy, right?
I feel like if you're the one that's going in, someone's worked all day on this individual product, this really, really complex thing, you're going to go in there and you're going to tell them that, hey, this isn't going to cut it.
What I try to work with everyone, my teams and everyone, is that it's really how you show up and how you engage, because what are we saying and doing to put someone else on the defense? Because a lot of times when we're having these conversations, we're delivering bad news. Right. So build those relationships with your coworkers, understanding how this information is going to occur to them, and try to work with them, because everyone comes to work to do the right thing.
Everybody wants to do a good job.
Exactly. So let's remove that piece out of it and just say, hey, what happened? What broke down? This is going on. What can we do to fix it? Type of thing.
Give me a story about a time that you or your team on the quality team had impacted or made a difference to be like, oh my, we saved this and we did this and we got it out and we helped this customer out. Right? Like, give me an example.
There's a lot of those that come up from time to time. Of course, just nature of quality. But I would like to use an example that kind of highlights the detailed that everyone has at Fike, not just quality. This does affect quality. This quality was a part of this solution, if you will. But I want to highlight that the manufacturing team was also a big part of this solution. An example of this was we were doing a 90% bulge on a welded assembly in the RD lab. The operator was in the RD lab.
Say that again. So you're doing a 90% bulge on a
welded assembly. So it's let's just say it's a disc welded to a flange, for lack of a better word, right? And so they're doing a 90%, raising the pressure 90% of what the burst pressure is. And during this exercise, the operator noticed that part was starting to deform. Right, that's a no-go, right? So he's questioning, do we have a design issue? What's going on? So he raises his hand. He says, hey, quality, we have a problem. This is unusual. This is not normally what happens. Can you come help? So we partnered with manufacturing. The first thing we did was just say, hey, let's see if this material is what it's supposed to be. So we used a PMI gun, super fast, super quick, to identify, is this the right material? Well, the material is supposed to be 17.4. The PMI gun read it was, I believe, 416 stainless steel at the time, which is a much lower strength material. That's why we were seeing it deform. So then that led us down a path to say, all right, was there a breakdown in receiving? Was there a breakdown from our vendor sending the wrong material? Of course, we worked all of those problems through, and we put in corrective actions, not only in receiving, but also with our vendors to prevent things like this from happening. But if that would have went out to our customer, it would have been a really big problem.
Is you're involved in raw material coming in, finished product, that have to be inspected because they're so complex. How do you even go about doing quality on something for NASA or military defense or something? How do you do that?
A lot of those have processes that are very, very controlled by the customer, right? So there's a lot of acceptance testing that goes along with that, which it's agreed upon and approved by the customer and Fike engineering, quality, and manufacturing to say, hey, this is the process we follow every time, right? So there's change controls, you can't make changes, all of these things, but it routes a lot of times when we're talking about those jobs, they do route through inspection, and often it's 100% inspection of all features and all parts, which is very time consuming. But they pay money for that, and they pay for those activities.
What's a typical lot for something super complex like that?
Yeah, it's not uncommon to have 100-piece lot for those type of jobs.
Okay.
But it does appear with everything going on in the world that everyone wants more of those type of products.
Yeah.
So the quantities are going up significantly starting next year.
Some of those parts are like this big, and there's so much detail in these little bitty parts. Are you having to put these under a microscope? How do you?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, sometimes. It just depends exactly what's going on. But we have made investments in our quality inspection over the last several years. Some of those investments are newer CMMs that are automated that have not only the tactile where you're physically touching the parts and scanning, but visual. So we combine both the camera with the vision and the tactile to be able to do those real small parts. Because all these small parts have really, really tight tolerances as well.
Of course. So how have you seen Fike's quality evolve even in your tenure?
Yeah, so I've been here 10 years, so to speak on 80 years is a lot for sure. But even in the last 10, things have changed rapidly, in my opinion. But what's really driving that is the industries we serve, the customers we serve. They're getting smarter. They want more technical data. They want things to be more tighter tolerances, which is driving us to be better and to do that continuous improvement, not only in quality, but in all areas of our organization. So we have invested heavily on new technologies, new equipment to be more efficient, to be more accurate, especially in the last 5 years.
How do you guys measure your success within quality? Because I feel like for being a quality department, it's not like a measurable thing. Like we got so many vents done today. Yeah. It was like, how do you measure it for success?
So we do, right. I want to answer this in more of a philosophical way, but first I'll back up and say we do have numbers, right? We do have metrics. So just like most areas in most departments at Fike is we do have metrics where we have, our safety, delivery, and quality metrics within our department that, of course, will lead to, are we successful? Do we need to make improvements in certain areas? We have that, absolutely. But I would say on the more philosophical side of things, how do we measure success, I think, is built into the mission itself, right? We talked about the mission of Fike early on in this interview, and I think not only for quality, but all areas of Fike, the mission in itself is how we measure success. At the end of the day, we get to go home to our families, our customers get to go home to their families, and their employees get to go home to their families. That's really ultimately how we measure success.
What would you say your team's biggest challenge is? I have a feeling it's trying to be the expert in quality on every single individual part that we have because we have so many different parts. But that would be my guess. What say you?
What you hit on, I think, is we have a lot of challenges for sure. That's one of them. I do think we have great resources around Fike. We don't have to be the expert on everything. We just have to know who is, and then we can go partner with them, right? So, yes, is that a challenge? Absolutely, but we can navigate that with bringing in additional resources. Two heads are better than one, that type of thing. One of the things that come off probably the top of my head would be customer requirements, regulatory requirements, country requirements. How do we flow that down to the shop floor effectively, efficiently, and without a bunch of manual manipulation, right? Because when you get manual involved, more mistakes can happen. Yeah. So that's probably one of the largest challenges, and we are investing heavily in new systems to be able to be more efficient, to be able to communicate those requirements more effectively. It's a continuous improvement.
I imagine it's customer-based, but do you see a rapid difference in quality procedures or maybe the level of quality upon like the delivery of products to an individual country? So if like you're going to ship it to Germany, what is it more stringent or less, or do you find that there's like variable?
It does vary by, I'd say, customer and by country and region for sure. Yeah. A lot of that is driven by laws and regulations in those countries, of course, right? But even certain maybe perceptions from customers, they may want a 100% inspection because of a lack of trust just in an industry or a region, regardless of who they're buying it from. Mm-hmm. Other countries or regions, they may just say, hey, give it to us. If it meets whatever you say it does, we're fine with it. We won't ask for anything additional. So it really is just region dependent.
How do you find or figure out a new regulation in a different country? Are you having to like watch the news 24/7? Right.
Oh my God. That's a really great question. A lot of times when we're selling into a country, there's only so many countries, right? So we've been established for a long time. So a lot of times we kind of have an idea based on the country. Now, the tricky part is what's the current revision? Is something coming down the pipeline that we haven't heard of? Is there a new regulation being made for that country? So sometimes it could be customer-driven, industry-driven. Hopefully it's not a Google search, but that's yielded results from time to time.
It sounds to me like the department has to kind of be fluid on, hey, this task needs to be done right now. I need to get in my car and get down to this shop, and I need to go there, and I need to fix this quality problem right now. And then it also sounds like that projects can last 2-3 years. So do you have different teams within your team that kind of attack longer term versus like more tactical emergencies?
Yeah, and we should go through the structure of quality, but I would say regardless of necessary like which department within quality they are, everyone shares in that responsibility to an extent. We'll have people that are following our TOC workbenches that are say, hey, we have orders that are coming through that need to ship to the customer. So we treat those with a high priority. And then we have longer term projects, which have different stages, right? So we know, hey, the next stage is due 30 days from now. Mm-hmm. So then we prioritize that accordingly.
Quality is kind of ubiquitous all over the whole organization. And I've got 2 questions for you regarding that. One is, are you involved, and you mentioned compliance, are you involved in like ISO compliance, and you're like that? Is that on your team as well?
We own probably, I'd say, that process.
You'd own that? Okay, so that's a people process. That's not just a product process. So it sounds like you are in the quality business at Fike of both people and product is what it sounds like. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that you guys owned that. But the other part of the question that I've got for you on that regard is, let's say that you find an issue, okay? You have a corrective action. How many different departments would you say you're involved in kind of driving for the corrective action fix? So like, is it every single department, or is it generally we're working with engineering? I would think it's engineering a lot, but
it's really dependent on what the corrective action is, whether it's process related, product related, customer related. But in general, I would say the cross-functional team that is on this root cause analysis team would be quality, manufacturing, engineering at minimum. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it involves sales or sales applications, but the core team would be engineering, operations, and quality.
Can I ask you more of a personal question? I know that you'd been here for 10 years, you'd left, and you came back. I did the same thing.
I did not leave and come back.
I thought you left and came back. No, you didn't?
10 consecutive years.
10 consecutive years. Well, I left and I came back. Why do you keep coming back to Fike?
So I think this is part of the mission again, right? So yeah. I am very prideful coming to work at Fike because of what we do, what our mission is, right? Yeah. So not only do I get to come to work and love the people I work with, like I stay for the people, I stay for the leadership I work for, absolutely, but I get to say, hey, guess what, to my friends and family, I'm like, this is what Fike does, right? We protect assets, we protect people's lives. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a really easy and natural thing to get behind.